Hello everybody, I'm Matt Anderson and welcome to The Road Not Taken, how ordinary people got out of their own way and you can too. I'm very happy to introduce our guest today, Asvin Chauhan, who funnily is the first person I've interviewed from where I grew up in Coventry in the UK. So Asvin, if you could just say a few words to our audience just by means of introduction so they can get to know a little bit about you, that'd be smashing.
Hi everybody. As Matt said, my name is Asvin Chauhan. I'm 50 years old. I now live in the beautiful countryside town of Leamington Spa. However, I was born and bred in Coventry. I spent 45, nearly 46 years there. I've been a financial planner for 29 years. I'm about to celebrate my 29th anniversary on the 1st of June. And the truth is, Matt, I was kind of mediocre for the first 21 years, and it's only the last 6, 7, 8 years things have started to move at a pace.
Okay, so it sounds a bit humble. I think you're being a bit too modest there. When did you qualify? So again, financial planner, and then how long have you been a $1 Million Roundtable member? So which is for the audience about the top 5% globally of people in financial services.
Yeah, so I spent 6 years. My career started with one insurance company. I spent 6 years there. Sadly, I did not make the $1 Million Roundtable. In my 7th year, I started my own practice, and I missed qualification of the Roundtable by about this much, and it was a really big goal to do that.
Yeah.
So the year after, I absolutely made sure I did not fail at that. So I've done 21 years. I'm now 21 years as a qualified for the $1 Million Roundtable. Yeah.
Okay, so you were being very modest. Just you describe something. Not too many people describe themselves as mediocre and qualified for $1 Million Roundtable. But anyway, it's all what's the word? I forgot, the word's not coming to me. But anyway, it's all relative. Success is all relative, I suppose.
Yes, beautiful.
And then remind me again. And then how many years have you been at the top of the table? Sort of the kind of the elite?
Yes, I qualified for $1 Million Roundtable, as I say, 21 years ago. And in 2004 was the first time I managed to do 3 times entry qualification, which is considered core to the table. And then I missed it again for another year or two, Matt, thereafter. So it would then be 2006, I think, was when I then ramped up my activity again, and that's the truth of it. And then this is my 5th year, 31st of December 2018 was 5 years on the trot, and it's, it's a full conclusion going forward now.
Yeah. Which again, for those listening, top of the table, I mean, it's probably like 1/10 of a percent, so 0.01. My math serves me. In other words, an extraordinarily few people, which again is one of the main reasons, obviously, Asvin and I talking, not the fact that we both grew up in Coventry but pretty much the same age. So anyway, going into the adversity piece, just to kick things off from relating it to sort of getting out of your own way. I mean, obviously, all of us have had challenges. So what would you say if you had to pick one thing that's helped you the most in terms of getting out of your own way?
The one thing that's helped me most, well, do you know what? No matter what, or so far, no matter what my journey has been, or perhaps you say I'm being harsh in terms of what I've achieved, I think there's so much more to do. And certainly at this time in my life, I'm 50 now, and looking forward, it truly feels like I've only just scratched the surface. However, I must quantify, there is an awful lot of experience under the surface that is now going to be, or is currently being used as a springboard to a very different future. So what's the one thing? I've always been fascinated about what the future could look like, what the potential of the future is, and know that I have much more to give. That's a constant theme for me. I'm starting to quantify now what that could be. More significantly, more concretely, bigger and more focused plans now going forward.
So, could some people define that as optimism?
Oh, beautiful! You're great. I'm truly optimistic.
So that's helped you.
As a character, as an attitude on the inside, I'm a very optimistic person. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and I want to go back though to the fact you described your 21 years as mediocre. because I don't want to split hairs on defining that. I mean, in a way, did you just answer why you defined it as mediocre because you think you're capable of so much more? Is that kind of what prompted you to describe it that way?
Well, Matt, it would be remiss of me not to share. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I truly feel blessed with the people I've met on my journey in the financial services profession. I've met some extraordinary people. However, I will say to you, you find what you're looking for. So because of that optimistic nature I have, I'm always seeking to be inspired, learn from others. And so I've met bigger and bigger and more successful people. And it's not just your business production that dictates success. It's that work-life balance and many other things certainly in more latter years, I've realized it isn't just your business success in terms of your turnover or your profitability. There's a lot more to success than just that. So it's the people that I've met along the way. And the people that I've met along the way are so much further ahead of me, and I'm so inspired by them and motivated when I hear their story. Now, that's why I think what I had achieved, there is so much more to do. So much more to do.
How do you meet these people?
The master appears when the student is ready. There's so many sayings like this, aren't there? That's just one of them. The master is ready when the student appears. I just meet so many people on my journey all the time. So it would have been, I remember I started in the June of 1997, I think it was. Hang on, let me think. No, 1991. In the June of 1991, the 1st of June. And by the end of that month, somebody had suggested to me, why don't we go to the local association meeting, Financial Services Association meeting, which back then was called the Life Insurance Association. So right at the very beginning, the people in my office suggested, and it was just down the road to this Life Insurance Association meeting. And they were, as I remember back then, every 2 months, if I remember correctly. So it just kind of started there. And you met some great people, speakers, financial services speakers, who were talking about their career and what they did and how they did it, who they did it for, and et cetera, et cetera. So it just kind of started there. And before you knew it, very early on you start to meet all sorts of people. So the company I worked for ran a weekly workshop. It was kind of, I say a workshop, it wasn't a workshop, I was watching a video back then. There was a number of us sat together, watched a video. In fact, we all had to watch the video, and it was Brian Tracy.
Oh, funny.
So it was a Brian Tracy video every week for, I'm guessing it was 3 months. Again, it was a long time ago. But I recall it kind of happened like that. Then, because I'd gone to the monthly LIA meetings, I went to the annual conference. And that became just a no-brainer. You had to go to the LIA annual conference.
Let me stop you there. What was it about the people you met that engaged you? Because it sounds like you found it, you got something good from it. I mean, in the early days, what prompted you to go to the annual conference?
Back then, Matt, it was motivation.
Okay.
I'd listened to people. I was really motivated. It was a big world of, I think it was 1,000 people at this conference. It was a really big scale thing. I'd never experienced anything like that in my former career, where I was only training to be an accountant. I didn't qualify to be an accountant, but I was training to be an accountant. And I worked in a small and medium size, and then I worked in a national practice. But I'd never experienced anything on that scale. And accountancy back then was not really a sexy business. It wasn't a business where there was lots of motivation. There wasn't any outward stuff out there that was preaching to me saying, you could do this, you could be this, you could do that, and we do this way, and we do it that way, and et cetera, et cetera. It just wasn't there in the businesses I worked for. So when I befriended a chap at the last accountancy practice I worked for, when I befriended a chap who worked in the building opposite me, he was in financial services. We just happened to meet, and it just happened to be that we worked opposite each other. And we just became firm friends very quickly and go out many Friday and or Saturday nights. And it was just meeting David and listening to him about his business and his lifestyle and et cetera, et cetera. that actually inspired me. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. It inspired me. It didn't inspire me sufficiently to say, I want to join financial services. Until David, after a whole year of being friends, said to me, Asvin, I think you would do really well in financial services. And that's when I sat up and listened, because he was a friend.
Yeah.
And there was nothing in it for him. There was nothing about join my company. In fact, I very clearly remember him saying shortly after saying, I think you should join the financial services business. He said, but just not with my company. I think there are better companies out there. So here's a friend, a guy I admire, who was doing really well. I was inspired by him. I didn't know it at the time, but I was. And it kind of set the ball rolling. It was useful that my father's financial advisor was also a gentleman that I respected. And he was also a really successful guy. But both David and my father's advisor were not only successful, but they were very professional. The way they dressed, the way they presented themselves, the way they talked. And I worked in a professional environment. Accountancy, whilst it might not have been motivating, it was a professional environment. People dressed properly, people spoke properly.
Sure. Sounds like though that it was. I mean, it was a risk that you had to take in doing that, because I'm assuming you had a salaried position in the accounting world, and now someone's suggesting you do something where there's infinitely more risk involved. So, was it one of those situations where the advantages outweighed the disadvantages? In other words, you saw people you respected that seemed that were successful by your definition and were professional, that appealed to you. Like, how did you overcome the fear of taking that leap?
Oh, I wasn't that clever, man. Let's hang on. Let's rewind a sec. I was 20 years old when David and I had that conversation, and it was a year later that I physically started the role on the 1st of June at age 20, and I was 21 on the 11th of June. So I kind of joined when I was 21, the business. I wasn't that smart, wasn't that deep thinking. All I knew is that this sounded phenomenal. It sounded like a great opportunity. David was very professional. My father's advisor was very professional. They both had great lifestyles. I just kind of thought to myself, I'd like that. I'd like more of that. Mm-hmm. And it sounded exciting. Accountancy at the time did not feel exciting to me.
No.
In fact, I must say, by the way, I found accountancy really tough. So let's get that in there as well. Let's not say accountancy was not exciting entirely because it was accountancy. No, I found it really tough. It was a very narrow path at the time of sitting there, taking instructions, doing work, blah, blah, blah. The most exciting thing, or the most enjoyable, not perhaps exciting, but the most enjoyable thing was I was a junior. So I had, the seniors would take me out to different locations into people's businesses where we would sit and do our audit work. So that I enjoyed, getting out to the office, going to somebody else's environment, sitting in an engineering practice one day, or engineering business one day, where they made nuts and bolts, and you'd have that smell of the engineering milling stuff going on. The next day you'd be in a nice corporate office, because whatever they did, they had a corporate office. It didn't matter what they did, but they had a corporate office, so we'd be in that. Another day we might be sat in the back room of a busy pub, etc., etc. All sorts of places we would go. So that bit I enjoyed, getting out, getting into people's environments, seeing other people, meeting other people, and then getting my head down ultimately. But sitting in the office, number crunching all day long was not at all exciting, and I found it really tough.
Yeah. So you clearly had some drive about excitement about what you were pursuing. What were some of the challenges that you had, or the biggest challenges that you had in the earlier years?
Great question, Matt. I'm going to be really honest with you and throughout this entire conversation, in that I didn't feel I had any challenges in the early years, because you have to take that comment or that question of challenges and overlay it on this young man who was just optimistic. Mm-hmm. Just completely, the world is really exciting. I've gone to this new city. I've joined this new company with people I do not know. They're all rah, excited, get out there, do this, do that. We have a training program to put you through. Everyone was just excited. Everyone was optimistic. Everyone was looking towards the future. Yes, you had some people in the organization who'd been there a number of years who were not successful. End of story. They just weren't. Yeah. You could tell very early on that they did not have the right energy. They had a sort of a downtrodden energy. They were nice people. I won't deny that. I wouldn't like to cast any ill words about them as people. But the spirit of them in the working world was spiraling down, was on a downward trend. And so whatever they had to say, yeah, fine, and respectfully I would listen, but ultimately I wasn't engaged.
Asvin,
I was engaged.
Got to stop you because I've interviewed quite a lot of people and no one's talked in this context before in terms of energy. You said that you could tell they didn't have the right energy. You said their spirit was on a downward trend. Talk about that. What do you mean about energy and spirit?
So that's, again, Matt, we go back to who potentially could have been my two role models when I came into financial services. First one was my father's advisor. Second one was David, my friend. So I walk into this new office in the first month, first year, whatever period of time you want to cast upon it. But in my very early years, and those people, the stuff that came out of their mouth was not congruent with the image I had and the conversations and the feelings I had from the two gentlemen who, in this conversation, I clearly realized they were my role models to start with. Mm-hmm. Those guys never talked like that. They were never negative speaking. They were always positive speaking, always happy and upwardly mobile, talking about improving people's lives and et cetera, and were very successful themselves. So you tend to, when people are successful, do not talk in those terms, do not talk in downward negative terms. They might talk about challenges in growing their business or whatever it may be, but certainly in talking to a new person coming into the business, you won't find successful people talking downwards about the business. Mm-hmm. Challenges in their business. They're talking about the opportunities.
Okay, so how did you handle the rejection?
Do you know, it's really simple, man. We were told you just had to get on the phone. Do you know what? The biggest gift that was given to me very early on in my career, and it must have been because the manager really liked me. There must have been something in me that the manager identified. I really like this kid, and I think he's going to do well, so I'm going to give him everything. So he gave me this database and said to me, Asvin, if you work with this database, you're going to do really well. And this database was like this thick. It was 2-3 inches thick. Okay. And the paper was super thin, and the type in it was super tiny. So there was just millions of opportunities in that database. What was it, Matt?
What's that?
What was it? What do you think it was?
In a database?
30 years ago. What was the database? Do you think, any thoughts on what the database might have been?
No, not really.
Yellow Pages. Okay. Yellow Pages, man. 28 years ago, 29 years ago, I was given a copy of the Yellow Pages. We had a telephone. We had a blank diary, or I had a blank diary, and I was told, this is the script. Use this script and just keep going, just keep going. And I was in a room full of people who that was their only mission, and they made it a little exciting, and you had a little competition and whatever. And you have to remember, Matt, I was optimistic, and I didn't know any different.
So I want to kind of think about here or talk about here is, so I interviewed someone yesterday actually who's a top producer in her industry, and now she's much closer to our age now. But one of the things that I'm thinking, I'm just thinking this out loud, thinking it through, is it sounds on one level that, you were very obedient. Well, maybe obedience doesn't sound like a very positive word, but you were young and willing to do what other people told you that seemed like they had the answers. And I think that's totally normal at that age. And I'm just, as I think this out loud, I start to say to myself, one of the challenges I think many of us have as we get, let's say, past our 20s, is we start to think, but we can, maybe come up with our own recipe or reinvent our own wheels. And we don't use that language because otherwise we wouldn't do it. But we tend to sort of disregard the notion that there is a recipe out there that we can follow. But for some reason, we get more stubborn about doing that, I think, once we get past our earlier adult years. And so it sounds like you had that in your favor. But the reason I bring it up is because the woman I talked to yesterday, as I said, I don't know her age, but she's got to be in her mid-40s. And when she talked about the number of coaches that she's worked with and mentors and managers, it's interesting because as amazing as she is in her business, once a week, she will be very obedient about doing what they tell her to do because they've been there and done it and they have the results to show. And so I'm bringing this up again for those listening for obvious reasons in terms of, maybe we could all be a lot more wise about this. And instead of trying to think we've got to figure it all out on our own, is to, talk to people that have the results. And so long as we don't have to replicate their personalities or some things that, we can't replicate. But if there's like activity-wise, that we can get very similar results, what would you say to that?
Well, hey, listen, Matt, again, I'm not going to say anything that our listeners have not heard before. And it goes back to that famous old saying of, if you do today what you did yesterday, you're likely to get the same result. Mm-hmm. So if as we are talking about getting out of your own way, we can find somebody to talk to or seek advice from or whatever you want to call it, mentoring, coaching, whatever it may be. And those two things are really, really useful, mentoring and coaching.
Yeah.
Only because generally that's a track run on and it's a relationship, it's a period of time as opposed to a one-off thing. Then you find somebody that you can talk to, you can share where your mindset is, where your challenges are, and those people may be able to assist you with them, or they might completely ignore it and say to you, just do this, and this is going to get you there. So as we get older, as you rightly say, you have life experience, and so if somebody tells you just do this and do that, sometimes it needs to be a little more than that. Because you have life experience, so you're more obedient to your own emotion than somebody else's emotion. Yeah, because you are actually, obedient is now a good word in this context, because you are. Your actions are driven by your own thoughts, feelings, emotions, your own desires, from a consistency perspective. I can be motivated by you telling me something. But what I have learned, where the big changes came for me, Matt, was when I stopped seeking motivation. I went to all these events for many, many years, well, for every year in my financial services career, and continue to go to. But in the very early years, probably up until the 21st year, I sought to be motivated by listening to other people's stories, etc., etc. And motivation is your inspiration. When that person is making a motivational speech, it's the inspiration they had on the inside that they are sharing, the actions they took that motivate me for that moment and or a period in time. But actually, Matt, all of that belongs to them. It's not mine. Mm-hmm. So I have now decided to take some action, but it doesn't always stick. And where things change for people who are seeking change is when they seek to find something that they want to make their own. And if you're planning to move forward, so this whole conversation is about getting out of your own way, which means that you're seeking to move forward, you're seeking to remove a few things, you want to get out of your own way and move forward. That requires inspiration, and inspiration has to come from inside. It's inspiration. Yeah. So I can come to you and be motivated by you, but then I need to think very, very carefully and pull out of your story what feels right to me and make it mine now. Now I've got something inside me. Now something on the inside has changed. So what I had yesterday has changed today because I made something new on the inside.
So it sounds like you had plenty of inspiration and motivation in the early years. Obviously, you can't. None of us can live life without having, terrible problems come along from time to time. So what do you do to find or build your own inspiration? Since obviously we're not machines, right? It's not a consistent thing for you. So what works for you?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that works for me, and has worked for me now for quite some time, is I've sought either to be mentored or coached, and I have been on that journey for quite some time. And I'm currently on a track. It's been 3 years, the current coaching that I'm on. I've just signed for year 4. And the coaching is important, but it's the environment that's more important. And that's what I've really come to realize. And the environment I've set myself in is where the first thing is I get on a plane and I go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it happens to be that my coach happens to be in America, North America. Now, you don't have to go that far, but the key thing is I'm out of my office and I'm out of my home and I'm in a different environment. Now, what that does, Matt, is I'm away from everything on a day-to-day basis that surrounds me, and I'm in a different place, which now gives me a little bit of mental freedom, a little bit of mental space, a little bit of emotional freedom. But my home and my office I love, so I'm not seeking freedom from that. I love that. But really, you need to be away from there to create some space in which for me, I'm going to the two big strong things for me is visualizing. I'm a seeing person and I'm a feeling person. They're two really big things for me. And so when I'm in a different place, and I often travel there on a Saturday, my workshop or my coaching program is not until the Monday. I have the Saturday and Sunday. I have some time to myself. I'll be wandering around. I might have decided I want to go and do a bit of shopping or whatever it is. But I have some space away from my normal place where I can think. I can process things. And most of that time, Matt, almost exclusively, I'm by myself. Mm-hmm. I'm not with others. I'm by myself. Normally, on the Sunday evening, I'll catch up with one of my buddies from my workshop, just on the evening, just for a quick bite before the Monday workshop. And then I'm in the workshop. And in the workshop, I'm surrounded by everybody there is seeking to move forward, not suggesting people come in there without any challenges. Most of us come in there with some form or the other of challenge and or seeking to get out of our own way. Why? Because what we did yesterday, we're seeking to scale today. Right. We want to move to another place.
So it's really interesting. One of the things I'm hearing you say over and over again is the importance of the key people that are close to you in your world, and that you definitely want to avoid people that are, a negative. Let's keep it simple. But then you make some other practical suggestions that obviously for people that maybe not going to flying to another continent is practical. But the principles of going to a different place, creating time alone to think, to process. I mean, that's something that anybody listening can do. And then, I am fascinated by this concept of who you're surrounding yourself with. And that's one of the reasons why so early on in our conversation, I asked you how you find these people. I do think it's interesting you said, well, you can just tell. Because my first feeling when I hear that is, well, maybe I feel like you might be better at it than quite a lot of other people. In other words, some people perhaps trust their senses, or their emotional intelligence is higher, or they're tuned into those things or are more aware of some of those things. And for other people, maybe we have to get to know people for a while. Like at first, most people try to create a positive impression, and then perhaps as you get to know them, you think, oh, maybe this person isn't quite so empowering or positive as I thought he or she was. But anyway, that aside, that's a principle that all of us can take. I still would, I didn't intend to go back to this point, but I still would like to hear more about proactive things you do? Well, I guess this would be one of them, right? So you sign up for courses that literally put you in a room of people that are absolutely all motivated to go in the same direction. There's lots of opportunities there for many people, I think, again, locally as well. But I also know, because I know you and I know each other quite well, that you've met some really powerful business people in different ways, right? So I want you can talk about some of the other things that you've done that have led you to meet, again, some of those people that you say, I can't remember your exact words, I've got them written down somewhere, but you had something about that are much further ahead than you in some ways, that you can learn from as well.
So some of the other professionals you mean that have scaled their businesses at a completely different place. In fact, I say scaled their businesses. That may be the case, but I don't know particularly what their journey was to get to where they are today. Yeah. But they are people who have got phenomenal practices and businesses today. So again, I immerse myself in my own profession. So I'm in the financial services profession, which is very fortunate because that lends itself to all sorts of conferences. And so, of course, you can go to conferences, you meet people, and then you hear people on the stage. And then you might find your colleagues are on the stage, not just Richard Branson or those kind of people, because they're not in, although he is in financial services, but not in the same way as I am. He has his own investment fund, I believe. But you might see some of your colleagues on the stage, people you don't know, but somebody who's maybe senior to you in years in the business and or whatever. It's not always senior to you. But I'll just make a point of seeking them out. Mm-hmm. That's my big thing. And, if somebody has said something that I really enjoyed, I'll try my best, not every single one, but the one or two that I feel I really, really love their story, of approaching them and thanking them for their speech. And then maybe from there, ask them a few more questions. And, you find people, when they've said something on stage and then they come off and there's a million people who want to take photos and all that, that's great. But sometimes you'll find somebody who's really engaged and wants to talk to you and find out a little bit more. That's another thing, Matt. You said I'm optimistic. Yeah, I'm actually a very curious person as well. I have there's a high curiosity inside me. That's been a constant theme forever. Forever. And I'm curious about everything that can assist me, and I'm curious about everything that has got nothing to do with my career.
Right.
Absolutely nothing to do. I'm just curious about everything. And so when you meet people and you engage them and you're curious and you're interested and you're fascinated, they love to give you a bit more. They want to share a little bit more with you.
Yeah. You raise a really interesting point, and I don't know how easy this is for all of us to get better at, but one of the things, I remember this when I first spoke at $1 Million Roundtable, there was a keynote speaker. He had 45 minutes and he basically made one point, and he'd been a talk show host, and he said that whenever he interviewed top salespeople, the only thing he found they had in common was that when he tried to interview them, within about 90 seconds, they were interviewing him. And he just said that these people, they all look different. They all come from different places and different backgrounds, but they're actually his exact language, or they're extremely interested individuals. Like they're very interested in other people. And it's hard to fake that, but it's an area where, again, I think most people are not. I know they're not, because I've met thousands and thousands of people for coffees and all the rest of it, and speaking and coaching and so on. But I also know it's, I have a feeling like that's something that's, some people are innately blessed that way, and the rest of us have to get better at it, just be more interested, because it's an engaging quality. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it sounds like not a big deal, but it's actually one of the few common traits that people who are very successful in sales have.
Matt, I don't think you can force yourself to be interested. I think if you search deep inside you and you find where you're at is not where you want to be, and you want to move forward, that's when you might identify who can assist me, what can assist me, how do I assist myself. It doesn't always have to be outward, seeking something to come into your life. It could be inward, pushing something, pushing forward, or pushing something out of your life, etc., etc. So just a simple comment now I'll share with you, which I heard not many, actually, just maybe maybe in the last 10 years. And that's kind of changed my life as well. And that is that you said negative people, avoid negative people, or avoid people who talk negatively. Now, that's not always possible, because these might be people who you just cannot avoid. They might be family, immediate family, or friends that go back a long time. People you are not prepared to give up on for whatever reason, or give up on the relationship. Not give up on them, but give up on the relationship. It's either it's not possible or you don't want to, because for whatever reason. But what you could do is what comes out of their mouth, if assuming for a moment it's a negative thought, feeling, emotion, whatever it is, something they're trying to share with you, you don't have to make it your own. You can just accept that that is what they're trying to articulate to you. Then equally, there are times when people who do want you to make it your own, they want to make their stuff yours. They want you to adopt it. And that's a time, this was a very powerful lesson, to say not to allow people to spill their stuff on you. Now, you might, again, because I say sometimes there are people that you can't have them out of your life. And you can empathize with them. And in that moment, the likelihood is they will feel probably that they are being felt because you're empathizing with them. Mm-hmm. You just don't have to make it your own, and or whatever that comes out of them, it doesn't have to spill all over you. You can feel it for a moment, but you can let it slip by, because don't make it yours.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but I'm saying you can become more aware of it, that you're affected by these things. So where you can, yes, seek not to have people like that in your life. Move away, or if you're aware that, as a generalization, that place is often like that, and I have a choice not to be there, I can be here, then don't go there. But when you have got people that are like that, then there's an alternative strategy.
No, thank you. That's a very practical thing, because you're right. In the real world, you can't live in a bubble of just extremely upbeat, positive people. So several things on my mind. You talked about going up to people after they'd presented and asking questions. And funnily, one of the first thoughts in my head is that I think most people are too intimidated to do that. So how come you're not?
Matt, I'm not a complicated character. There is no magic to me, and certainly no magic to what I do. So let's go back and let's take a step back again. I'm optimistic. I'm curious. Why? So there's no barrier in the first place of, oh my God, what are they going to think? What are they going to do? What are they going to say? Well, because my overpowering thing is I'm optimistic and I'm curious. That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. So that I find that easier from that perspective. The second thing is, what's the worst anybody's going to say? When I was younger, I was just stupid. I didn't know not to go and talk to somebody. Mm-hmm. Now, I say stupid. I was just optimistic. I don't know. I can't tell you something different, because there just isn't.
Yeah.
As I get a little older, I can understand now that yes, some people might have a barrier, a self-confidence barrier and/or issue. But once again, Matt, if you overlay those things with being curious, being optimistic, saying that the future is bigger tomorrow than it is today, and how do I get there? Well, that guy seems to have something that I'd like, and so I want to go and find out more. You kind of build strategies to get out of your own way.
Yeah. It does sound like you're someone who doesn't get too worried about what other people think of him. In other words, that you're not like you said. What's the worst that can happen what's the worst that they can say is a very empowering way of looking at it. Because other people will be. Yeah. I remember the first time I met Brian Tracy, and I asked him a completely ridiculous question. As if I hadn't been listening to anything he'd said for the first hour and a half. And I remember he even couldn't conceal his slightly, exasperated look at the question. And then he collected himself and gave me a great response that was really helpful. But that's one thing that's occurring to me. But I absolutely love what you're saying. But it's another question I like to ask, perhaps not as often as I should in a way. But we haven't talked about your background, where you grew up, and all the rest of it, which is fine. But pretty humble origins and
very simple family background. Nothing. Nothing to say, I came from a horrendous background and that's why I'm so successful that I wanted to move away from that. Nothing to say that I came from a very impoverished, or nothing to say I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. It's definitely not the case.
Yeah. Well, but many people are intimidated by those that are much more, and I'll use the word very loosely in quotation marks, successful or accomplished. And it doesn't sound like. I can't recall of an instance, frankly, where you've ever shared a story where I've gotten that impression from you. So talk about that. How come that doesn't concern or doesn't intimidate you when you talk to people that have just spoken on stage to thousands of people or approach prospects that are worth enormous amounts of money? Talk about that, because most people are intimidated, and I want to address that. How come it's talk us about what goes through your head? What do you say to yourself such that you're pretty comfortable in those scenarios?
Let's talk about the successful prospects first, because that actually, I think people could get some real tremendous value from that. If you really think about it, Matt, for a moment, when we approach somebody who's very, very successful, perhaps way beyond you and I where we are at today, but we'd love to engage with them in a conversation which we hope will be a longer term relationship and have some commercial value. So we take somebody who we don't know to open a conversation and will become a prospect who may then become a client. Well, take a moment here to say, well, hang on a second. Am I seeking to make another financial advisor my client? Well, the answer is no. Why? Because they already possess the knowledge I have. Whether they utilize it in the same way, I don't know. But they already know the stuff I know. So I'm not trying to make people who are subject matter experts in my business my clients.
Sure.
I'm seeking to make really successful people who are subject matter experts in their own business my clients. So why would I assume that they know everything about my business? Because they don't, and my profession and what we can do for them. My experience is they absolutely don't know what I know. They may have some reasonable and more often I'm finding they are clued up in financial services. But that doesn't mean to say they know everything about everything. No two financial advisors can meet one client and if they're successful and the opportunity is big enough, come out with exactly the same recommendation. We may have the same kit of tools. Doesn't mean to say we use them in exactly the same order.
Yeah.
It's not absolutely methodical and mechanical. Sorry, methodical is one way, but it's not absolutely mechanical that you have to loosen this nut to get this washer loose and then take the bolt out and then separate. It's not like that. Mm-hmm. It's conversational based. It's getting to the heart of somebody, trying to understand them with your personality, with your questioning, with your conversational skill. So the first thing is, when I meet successful people, I do not assume they know everything there is to know about financial services. That they don't. So therefore, I am there as subject matter expert skilled or not as I am, but I probably know more than them about my business, to engage them, to find out about them. So I'm more fascinated in them than I am about the financial services piece. But I am ultimately there, if it's a prospect, to engage them longer term in a relationship. But I'm more interested in them in the first place because I'm curious, etc., etc. I love that. And then,
that's really interesting. Again, just to stop you for a second. So things I'm taking from you. So first off, I'm more fascinated in them than I am about the financial services piece. So again, regardless of what your business is, it's being more interested in the other person first and thinking, okay, how do I sell this person, or how do I position it so that they, whatever they come on board to my agenda about what it is perhaps I want to engage them with. You also said you see yourself as a subject matter expert, so your head's in a good place. And does that cover not feeling like an imposter? So again, I just want to recall one story you shared with me once, and I don't need to go into that much detail, but the gist of it for those listening was this was someone who was worth multi-millions. I think he or his family owned lots of businesses. And there you were. You went out for dinner with this guy, and I remember you said something about at the end. His chauffeur drove you home, and it was quite a considerable distance. I mean, most people, I think it's fair to say, would be pretty intimidated by spending time with someone like that. And I've never heard such words come out of your mouth. So again, were those the primary things that made you comfortable? I mean, have you ever had that imposter syndrome feeling, or how do you sort of, again?
Matt, I'd be lying to say I have not felt uncomfortable in certain people's company. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if you really, really get to the heart of why we feel uncomfortable with very successful people, if that's what we're talking about here, it's all to do with us, it's not to do with them. They happen to be successful for whatever reason. They just are. It is what they are. It is what they've made or what they've inherited or whatever. Most of the people I'm in front of is what they've made, it's what they've created. And so they've worked for what it is, and it is what it is. Now, if I'm uncomfortable because of their level of success, I don't know. Then you're trying to correlate that they have, they may have a more successful career than you, they may have more commercial value than you, etc., etc. But you're trying to say you've got to measure yourself. Or not, forgive me, I completely said the wrong word. You didn't say that at all. But perhaps I'm trying to compare my commercial success to theirs, and that's not necessary. Mm-hmm. It's not necessary at all. It's here, I can sit here and say, I really respect what they have done. I can even be inspired. I can even seek some motivation, on sort of outwardly by hearing their story. But I'm here in front of that individual because I believe I have some knowledge about stuff in my profession that might be, and genuinely might be, useful to their family. And let's just take a second here, Matt, for those who are going to listen to this conversation, who choose to. Please don't think, I use the word subject matter expert, and I'm going to use that very loosely. I'm going to just demystify that here and just say, be very loose around that. Don't think you have to know everything about everything. Mm-hmm. In very broad, because the financial services profession is a very broad business. You could just know a lot about pensions. You could know a lot about investment. You could know a lot about protection, life insurance and such like, income protection products, certain areas of protection, and that's enough. Because that's the thing that you're going to talk to them. I happen to be a holistic advisor, so I keep sharpening my pencil. I keep educating myself about this stuff. I won't say I know everything about everything, but I keep learning stuff.
It's really a great perspective. Okay, so a slightly different topic here. It was over 20 years before you got to sort of the top of the, industry, certainly globally. When you went to that first meeting of the top of the table, I'm fascinated to hear what was different about the people there.
Right. So the first thing is the top of the table meeting. There is only 500 people in the room. It's a very small, intimate meeting, and I knew before I walked into that room that I've only come in at the bottom of the rung of the ladder. I knew that straight away. Now, am I saying something negative about myself or blah, blah, blah? No, I'm not. I'm just being realistic that I had a certain belief, because again, I'm optimistic, I'm seeking to grow and be bigger and better, that there are people out there who are way ahead of me. So let's just take this top of the table thing here for a second and let's just pull that apart. It's a great achievement for, I can't deny that it isn't a great achievement. But when you go into that room and you know that there are people there that are way beyond you, again, your antennas are up, you're looking for a different experience. Mm-hmm. And so I was just blown away by how intimate the meeting was and how easy it was to speak to pretty much anybody you wanted to in that room, because the numbers are low. In my case, I went with my wife, so if there's 500 people in the room, probably there's 300 people like me who are what are known as producers.
Right.
There are spouses, etc., who are not necessarily involved in the business. So it's not difficult to connect with these people and seek them out.
But talk about the differences in terms of the people you meet at a meeting like that compared to the ones you met in the early days at the life assurance conferences.
Yeah, so at the life assurance conferences, there are thousands of people there. So to get any face time with, as an example, Matt Anderson, it's really difficult because everybody wants a piece of Matt Anderson. Matt's just come off the stage, everybody wants a piece of him. To get any face time with him, face to face, and genuinely have a comfortable conversation in a relaxed environment, it's difficult. However, when you're at the top of the table meeting, it's far more relaxed. A lot less people there. There is time to spend with each other. You know, you have the what they call the main platform. So it's the event where everybody is there together, and we're listening, and we're participating in what's going on the stage, perhaps with a few exercises. But then you have breakout rooms where you can go, and there's 10 of you, 20 of you, 30 of you listening to somebody, and that's an opportunity where when you get into the room, you can meet people, you can have a little chat before or after, and or there's breakfast, there's lunch, there's evening events where it's free-flowing.
Okay, so you've talked about sort of the environment being different, but what I'm curious about more so is that character traits or disciplines, business focuses. I mean, talk about the differences. In other words, what are the main 3 reasons why, or differences between people who make top of the table and those who don't?
Okay, so the first thing I would say is desire. The people that are there, I have to say exclusively, have chosen to be there.
Okay.
And you could say, so that's a simple thing I've said, but think about it. They had a desire to work at a rate themselves, to educate themselves, to have a certain skill set, have a belief that I can make a difference in the world, go out and find people that might listen to them. In 28 years, nearly 29 years now, I still don't have people ringing me every day to say, Asvin, I hear you're a great financial planner. Can you come and talk to me about my stuff? I'm desperate to meet you. Mm-hmm. How often does that happen? Never or rarely. Yeah. So I still have to go out and find people, and as do they. Mm-hmm. So they just choose that we want to be at this place in our life, in our career. And so they'll do everything that is necessary to do that. And what is necessary to do that? So then you have a discipline. You have a work ethic. You know, you're going to get into the office at a certain time. What is your principal role? My principal role is to engage with my existing clients, service them. And if I'm growing my business, then seek to meet other people. So how do you do that? Well, you've got to get on the phone. You've got to have meetings. You must ask for referrals. And again, if our listeners are in financial services and they've been in the business a little while, I'm not doing anything different to everything you already know. Okay. I just might be doing just a tiny bit more, and I might be doing it more consistently. And I will say that, Matt, I'm only doing a little bit more than your average $1 million Roundtable member, and that's a member, not core to the table or top of the table, member. But what I'm doing a little bit more of is a number of things. It's not one thing I'm doing a little bit more of, it's a little bit more of a lot of things. So I have a little bit more discipline. So I'm in the office most days at the right time. You know, I get in my office at 8:30, 9 o'clock at the very latest, but 8:30 most days. Not every day. I'm not massively disciplined, but most days. And then most days, I know what my job is that day. You know, I'll make a list every single, in fact, not most days, every single day I'll say, I make a list of the things I got to do. How many days do I get it done every single day? Matt, actually, I'm quite hard on myself, so most days I don't get done the whole list. Why? Because my list is a bit too long. I'm a bit hard on myself that way. But many days, I'll get a number of things done on my list. Many days I'll get a number of things. Okay. And one of the things has to be, what is your core role? Your core role is that you meet people who require your services. So either I'm making calls to get people in my diary, or I'm making those, I have those appointments, and or I'll be asking for referrals, etc., etc. I don't do everything all the time, but I do just that little bit more, and I do it a little bit more consistently most of the time.
Yeah. Okay, so you said
I'm not a machine. I'm not a machine.
Sure. So you said desire was the first thing, and what else did you notice about the people at the top of the table compared to those who weren't there?
I remember a conversation really clearly with two guys from North America in my first year. It was the second or third day. I'm going to name one of them, actually. The other gentleman I do not recall right now, but I will name one of them, and his name was George Sigerson. I really hope one day George gets to hear this message. George, all I knew was he was a nice guy, and I'd seen him a few times at the meeting. I didn't particularly know him, and we were just chatting. I think it was after lunch, and just before an afternoon session, we were stood outside, him and another guy, and they said to me, "Oh, we'd heard you speak a few years ago at Philadelphia," and I've only ever spoke once at MDRT, ever, full stop. I made one presentation, and it was about how I do my investment management piece. And they were so curious and interested in how I did it and what I did. And so I told them about what I did and how I did it, and a few bits of paper that we had, some of our presentation material, etc., etc. So fascinating, interesting. I thought, I wonder what they do. And so I said, "Well, George, what is it you do then?" And this pal of his stumped up and said, "Well, George's," and it was like about 15, hang on a second, let me amplify, about 15 times bigger than the money we were looking after on behalf of our clients. He was about 15 times bigger than me, George is. And he was asking me all these questions like he didn't know anything. Yeah, and I don't think that was George's intention. What George's intention was is, let's start from the very beginning of what's this guy doing, So he was curious, he was interested. He didn't assume that he was such a big producer in my own, one of the most successful fields that I work in is investment management within all these different pensions or retirement planning or investment planning or whatever it might be, but it's investment management. And he's so far ahead of me in what he's done compared to what I had done at that moment in time. But he was smart enough to know, let me ask the guy right from the beginning, go through the entire journey, see if there's anything I can pick up, to only learn the guy was 15 times bigger than me. And so we had a bit of a laugh and joke about that. And then I find out that the chap that had introduced that to me, he was only twice the size of George.
Oh my gosh.
They were both asking me these questions.
Hang on. So forgive me, I'm not playing dumb here. But so the lesson you learned was it more around curiosity or sort of having a humble nature to learning?
No,
is that what you're saying?
The question was, what makes the MDRT members different? Or the top of the table members different? Is many of them are super successful and they're still seeking to find out, what are my other colleagues doing differently to me? And so why are they seeking to find that out? It could be for a number of reasons. I don't know. But it could be that, is there something that George is doing in his process that I'm not doing in my process that could assist me with what I'm doing in my team and my clients? Is there something that George is doing that I'm not doing altogether, that I've just missed something? I've been so focused in my track doing this thing, and I believe I provide this amazing service and whatever, and all of a sudden I realize, hang on a second, this chap's doing something. He's got the same business as me, but he's got this tiny little bell he's ringing that's a little different inside his business from a service perspective that we're not doing. And it would make a great deal of difference to my team and my clients and myself to provide that service.
Yeah, and I love that, because sometimes it can sound like almost a cliche to say that the top people are learners, because it can sound so bland. But the way you're talking about it is just as this fascination and desire to always want to look for ways to improve as one of the main ingredients to being that successful. So thanks for sharing that. I'm conscious that we need to wrap up soon, Asvin. I've got to ask one or two more final questions, though. One goes right back to the beginning, really, was when you made a comment about how you feel like you're hitting 50 and yet you're only scratching the surface. What do you mean by that?
Vision. Since I've been carving out a little time to think each quarter about what do I want, what are we doing, what are the little small things we've ticked off on our journey of improvement, whether it be personal, relationship, business, client-driven, whatever, anything and everything. But when I take that little time off to tick off a few things and think about it, and then think about what do I want, the vision has become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And not only by that process of giving myself time to think and process, but also by being inside a group or a team of people, if you wish, an environment where everybody is seeking to grow and change, etc., etc. So it's just an environment that is really enriching. And so my vision has become much, much bigger. Yeah. What I thought I could achieve was kind of really in a simple vision of the world is great. In a simple one-dimensional thing is to say, that's a wonderful, that's a great goal to want to achieve, Asvin. But now, when I was in that environment, that goal I've kind of broken it down into bite-sized chunks and it feels achievable. And now we've created a much bigger goal and vision of the future. And that's really exciting now, Matt. Love it. And, I have a desire to work in this profession for another 21 years. That will be 50 years in service of my clients. 50 years in service of a fantastic business, a fantastic profession. 50 years is enough time to see the output of what the advice you've given, and people have trusted you and had the courage to believe in you and take your advice and systematically review. We do what we promise to say to people, and they followed and they come out the other end and they've retired for a period of time. 50 years is a great opportunity to experience that entire thing, and that would give tremendous meaning to my life and my career, because Matt, these people who trusted me have helped me create a phenomenal life for my wife and my two sons and myself and my extended family. We have a good life. Mm-hmm. We have a wonderful home we live in, etc. Experiences and relationships. And again, Matt, I must say, my clients, I learn so much more from my clients. I often think this, I learn so much more than I give them. They give me much more than I give them.
Mm-hmm. No, this is fantastic, Asvin. And I've got 3 more quick questions, but just a very quick summary for people listening also from what you're just saying in terms of, tangible takeaways. I'm hearing, we talked about optimism. We talked about curiosity. So all of us being more curious. You repeated the word environment at least twice. You've mentioned it before. So for all of us, it doesn't matter where you are, but creating an ever more empowering environment that's enriching to help you get further ahead. One that, builds your desire, includes your love of learning, which also, now I can't read my writing, but then also incorporates something you said, again, a few minutes ago about I do just a tiny bit more and a bit more consistently on a certain number of things, ever growing. That was what I was saying, and ever growing. But 3 very, very quick questions to wrap up. Since your friend David talked to you, suggested you go into financial services, since, that day, who have you become?
Oh. You should have given me some warning about that, because that's a really deep question, and how can I answer it very quickly? Who have I become? Matt, I've become an individual who has the ability to help others see the things that I see and experience the things that I experience. I use the things that I see and I use the things that I have experienced in my life to assist people to get what they want in their life. Let's be clear. Forgive me. People don't want what I want. They want what they want. And I use all the experiences that I have today. The person that I have become today is the person who tries to seek to find out what is it that you really want, and I'm going to try and assist you to get there. The person that I have become today is a person who is still seeking to learn things, and I'm seeking people like you to inspire me, to teach me what you know. Yeah. Deep down, do unto others what you want done unto yourself. Yeah. Be fascinated, be curious, be interested. Start with one thing and ask yourself, are you today truly happy with where you're at? And do you believe where you're at is the only place you can be? Because I believe for most of us, where we're at does not have to be where we have to stay. If you're truly happy with where you are, God bless you. Please don't change. Be where you are. But if there are any small areas or bigger areas of your life that you're not happy with, then we're only here once. Have the courage to dig a little deeper and ask yourself some really great questions about where are you at and where do you want to be. Mm-hmm. And then ask yourself, well, what are my obstacles? Be honest with yourself. Face up to that. Don't deny them. Be honest about them. But then, once you've asked yourself what are the opportunities, seek out the strategies to change. We hear people all the time of rags to riches, huge adversity to something different. And so, for many of us, we can't assume that this thing is not possible to change it, because the world of the internet is phenomenal today, that you can Google stuff and people have been through it and they have changed it. So believe in possibility, because there is living proof out there. It doesn't have to be yours, it can be somebody else's. Now the question is, are you prepared to believe that there is a possibility for you to change something and be somewhere? So different to where you are, if that's where you want to be.
No, absolutely. Asvin, thank you. And then lastly, how can people keep in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so if people want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please do. If you've listened to something here and you want a little further insight into something, please contact me through there. I would be honest here and say that I am busy. I choose to be busy, so I may not be able always to get back to people in the time frame they might desire, but please ask a sort of a whole question so I can answer it wholly, rather than this, because I don't always have the time for that.
Right.
And of course, I'm almost always, I'll be at the $1 Million Roundtable this year, and as for many years as I can see. And so if you happen to be there, you can look me up. You'll know how to get a hold of me. People at the Roundtable know how to get a hold of each other.
No, it's brilliant. Well, Asvin, thank you so much for your time. Listeners, again, tons of great ideas and specific strategies and ways of thinking that really, anyone can adopt. Obviously, it's not easy, but it's absolutely doable. So again, don't put anyone on a pedestal. You can do it. Lastly, show notes for this will be on my website, matt-anderson.com, matt-anderson.com. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't. And please leave a review. That would be much appreciated. Otherwise, Asvin, thank you so much for your time. This has been absolutely priceless. And,
God bless.
And I'll wrap up with my final, my favorite question, which is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? I'm Matt Anderson, and this was The Road Not Taken.